We move on to the next item in our agenda, retainer agreement with legal team by Mr. Adrian Phillips. It's already present there. I invite Father Tony to introduce us into this topic. You're done mute. You're done mute.
Mr. Adrian is already on the screen, and I'm sure that he doesn't need to be introduced. This is the second consecutive governing body meeting that he is joining. So more than introducing Mr. Adrian, I would like to thank you so much for making time to join us this afternoon, Mr. Adrian, and welcome to this meeting.
It's my privilege to be here. Good afternoon, fathers. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this with you. And I'm delighted. At the very outset, I have all of 15 minutes and I'd like to leave some time for questions. At the very outset, am I properly audible?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Father Tony and Aquinas, I have shared a presentation that might facilitate a quicker movement with you. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. If I could do that, then I have the presentation on, I can just share it. But I don't think that facilitates.
Mr. Adrian, you can present it.
Okay. I was looking for shared screen, but don't know if Google allows me to do that at the moment. So perhaps if you will share your screen, we can pick it up, or I can just run through on that presentation itself. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm unable to find a shared screen menu on Google. So I looked at the, brilliant. Okay, fair enough. Present now. Okay, anyway, so fathers, rather than waste time while we're trying to figure this out, I thought I'll just discuss with you at the very outset why we thought of getting in on this sort of a retainer agreement. I'm going to share my perception of what reality today is in the current socio-economic setup or socio-political setup, not economic. So there are a lot of well-intentioned individuals looking for legal support. There are, brilliant, many NGOs. Father, you will go to the next slide. Great. There are many NGOs that are interested in, getting the proper legal support, but it's a little difficult for them to actually get there. There are issues with regard to the government and its perception of NGOs, whether you have a society, a trust, or a Section 8 company. When you hire your own lawyers, they are restricted because you're afraid of the political backlash that may come from the establishment and so on and so forth. And when we present, then the judiciary is constantly looking for specialists in a particular sphere or otherwise to support them in what they do. The authority itself is asking for that support. And for that very reason, we had Father Koshi on the drafting committee for the model juvenile justice rules. So the environment is set. And how our endeavor was to address this existing environment. So hence, we thought of this. Father, if you will go to the next slide. So the legal support, the ordinary legal support that you can fall back on becomes questionable. Who is that legal support? Either you go to a new person or you build up with them. You're paying their prices, they take their own time to sort out or address your issues. Rather than that, you have a regular legal support that you're falling back on, because this legal support is constantly interacting with you, and it provides affordable services which otherwise you wouldn't get from a law firm. You have a bunch of lawyers that have already pushed the boundaries of the justice system, and hence you've got this to fall back on when the time comes. The support that we are offering you provides you with a wide range of services, as you will see in the later slides, the kind of different kinds of services that we provide. And hence, you're going to one place for all your needs. Your own lawyers can maximize their potential. So, for every issue that you have, you've got a specialist now, rather than have one person that's trying to juggle around with all the various needs that you have. And you have now at your disposal available and trained and definitely experienced lawyers. So that's what we thought we are able to bring to you to address this reality. In terms of what we can offer you, Father, the next slide. So what we present to you and what I have put on this slide are what Father Tony and Aquinas and myself thought about being the most important things that we can offer. One is the capacity building. So whether it's the DBR organized forums, or as we will spell out a little later, uh, forums that can extrapolate themselves all across the 11 provinces that exist here. Two is to support you with either research or specialist information, or convert your experiences into a legal language when you're drafting operating protocols or manuals, or vice versa, convert legal language into a more acceptable language for uh, activists and uh, you know your young generation that needs to be able to put into practice these operating protocols. Two was to provide corporate legal services. These are in terms of legal compliances. So whether it is about resolutions that would be need to be drafted or passed at your board, in terms of ensuring that you are in keeping with uh, statutory requirements by way of being a trust or by way of being a society or otherwise, to provide you with the services in terms of agreements, contracts, memorandums of understanding with your different stakeholders. Um, our experience allows us to play around with what the government requires vis-a-vis what your requirements are, and find that happy medium that allows for this to be easily taken on board or acceptable. And then representation, whether in meetings or in negotiations with companies, or um, as you're going forward. Presently, or perhaps Father Tony will share or might have already shared, the one company that we are working with you already on to take forward on. Next slide, Father. Other than this, we also provide you with what we can support you with in PILs and supporting research in areas of advocacy or representation, or preparing you for representation in conferences or the relevant forums where that might be applicable or necessary. We are already engaged at high courts and at the Supreme Court, which is actually, we're yet to file that matter, but we will be filing it shortly in another few weeks. We were actually waiting for things to move a little more smoothly on that front, and for the necessary bar to change. So building strategy around these things becomes very crucial. I remember a few years ago, I was told, Adrian, don't approach the Supreme Court at the moment because the bar that will address this matter or the bench that will address this matter is not going to hear you. They're not acceptable. So we had to move our strategy around. When do we require to bring in media, say, to address or have a part to play in the strategy to build our entire case around the issue that we have in hand? That is perhaps a service that we can offer. And the fourth one would be litigation, whether it's assisting prosecution or drafting on behalf of uh, the prosecution or on the defense side, where that might be the case, or representation, whether in courts, quasi judicial forums like CWCs or JJBs, and so on and so forth. So these are broadly the services that we can offer you. Father, if you will go to the next slide. The question I had and what I'd like to present you with is how can you benefit from this? And I thought this would be probably the more important area. So you have the support of a law firm, albeit not a very large law firm. But what we've done, instead of being a very large law firm and increasing our overheads, is build our contacts with lawyers in various cities and various states who will be able to take forward a matter on our behalf where it's difficult for us to be present, or otherwise, who will affiliate themselves with that firm. They're either on a retainer contract with us or other such contract and have our backing. Then you have trained and experienced lawyers handling your matters. You have the ability to call up and have them address you or address your concern at that moment itself or in a short while if they're already on another call and so on. You have guys who've been in the system before for a while now and are hence able to use the system, use the modern tools and techniques that are coming into play increasingly uh, at your disposal. You have a variety of services, as we presented just a little while back, at your service, all available at one place. So you're not going shopping to different kinds of specialist lawyers for different needs that you might have. You've got it all in one place. And if we don't have that ability, we will connect you with the necessary person that has that ability, or we bring them on board, one of the two. But accountability is ours. And it doesn't matter where we are taking up or handling your matter, accountability lies with us to deliver what we are meant to deliver. Father Tony was very keen that we extend these services across not just YaR, but to all the provinces and all the various setups that exist across for Don Bosco's. We are happy to do that. So the services that we are providing to the YaR forum, we're happy to extend to you across your provinces, and YaR will adjust that accordingly. There are some funders that are happy to support legal endeavors, and at times it becomes necessary to have somebody that they accept. So funders are not happy to fund a law firm, that's for sure. But they might be happy to fund you, and you pay out the law firm as might be the case. And when that happens, we're happy for you to use the firm with funders that we recognize or recognize us, and extend your services or extend your funding. So we can discuss this in length and detail. If you have questions, I'd be more happy to respond to them and take this forward. Um, I have just added a slide at the end, Father, which is on screen at the moment, which is the profile of the partners of the law firm. So these are just a few individuals, but as I explained earlier, we are still connected to a number of guys. So presently, I handle matters in Goa, in various different cities across Maharashtra, in UP, in West Bengal, and we moved across to Assam now, and so on, depending on where our requirements are. If if the cases say even as far as the Northeast, you will see one of my partners herself is from the Northeast. Either she goes back and handles the matter herself, or she's happy to arrange for somebody that she trusts on our behalf to handle the matter for you there. Our objective is to be able to provide you with somebody at your absolute beck and call. And hence, our partners are located at different parts of the country. While I am broadly in Mumbai, Surbhi is in Delhi, and Devashish Tandon is in Kolkata. I have a partner in Bangalore as well, and one in Hyderabad as well. The Bangalore one is on maternity leave, so she's asked us not to showcase her anywhere yet. But we are more than happy to pick up whatever is required, and she will handle it for us from that end. Fathers, I hope I haven't eaten it up into all of my time, but I'm happy to respond to questions that you have that I can field.
Thank you, Mr. Adrian, for that excellent presentation. More than even the professional expertise that was obvious in the presentation, what is so exciting about this venture that we are entering into is the commitment and passion that Adrian and his firm has been showing towards the cause of children and justice. So from our side, we are very happy and excited to go forward. This also probably is a logical step forward from what we have been doing in Juvenile Justice Alliance, because all that, or what all of us wanted was that professional, reliable expertise should be available to us whenever we need it. So we thought this is really something in the right direction. I'm so grateful to Mr. Adrian and his firm for being willing to join hands with us. If you have a few questions quickly, I have shared actually, Adrian, that basic document with all the members, so they would be familiar. But actually, Arlene is already waiting. But if you have a few questions, please ask. Yeah, Thaddeus.
I feel lucky and happy. Why? Because this Mr. Adrian Philip, he has really given us a hope. And this is the area where we have to jump into, because the world is going to be the area, the whole world is going to be complicated. And this is the one of the strength we can get. So one suggestion is that I think maybe once we can try, at least once, to have a Google Meet or something, only based on the legal field, where we can be trained, only that, no other. So we'll have a more confidence and this and that. Otherwise we get lost, because I have come across a difficult time. Only for this is my suggestion. Only one session or something, only based on this on real, so he can help us. I'm very, very happy. So thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Father Thaddeus. Anybody else? Father Joe.
Father Joe Prabhu.
Yes, Father Joe.
I would like to thank Mr. Adrian for this service that they are rendering. I would consider as a service. Having said that, will they be handling land disputes in YaR centers? Just a clarification, nowhere it comes out. If there are any land disputes, how is going to be, will they take it up? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure whether I was supposed to answer that at this point or not, but I'd be more than happy to pick it up, Father. It's not an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yeah, any other questions? I'm sure Mr. Adrian will be able to connect you with other services also, in case he is not able to handle. That's what he also mentioned in his presentation. Yes.
You know, ordinarily we do handle property issues as well, whether it's in Mumbai or around. Like a couple of issues that we're handling in Pune and Goa are property issues, and I have got I myself attend the matter in Pune, but I have got my associates in Goa who handle it there. And if we need to move up to a high court, or if we need to bring in a recognized senior counsel for something like that for presence, then we bring the necessary individual.
Any other questions?
I'm happy to go along with Father Thaddeus' suggestion as well at some point, and I'm sure Father Aquinas and Tony can arrange a call exclusively on this issue, and so we can have it at more greater length. I definitely don't want to eat into your time right now, because you have a far more eminent and experienced speaker than me to follow, and I'm sure she has her experience to share with you, which will be fantastic. So no worries at all.
Thank you, Adrian. And to answer Thaddeus, probably we'll have more than one Thaddeus on many related issues, and we look forward to
Yeah,
many
thank you.
sessions during
Yeah.
the. So thank you so much, Adrian, and thank you for making time to share with us.
It's a privilege, fathers. Anytime, just let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Adrian, and for the wonderful presentation and for agreeing to collaborate with us on this issue of juvenile justice and the legal framework that you have proposed. Thank you very much for your presence and also for your presentation. We look forward to hearing you more and more in the coming days. Next, we move on to CCI's Open Shelters and the JJ Act 2015 by Mrs. Arlene Manoga. I invite Father Tony to introduce the topic.
Arlene? Yeah. Can we get to see you? Arlene is not there.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know, my video keeps going off for some reason.
Yeah, like on my screen, another father is appearing, but your name is appearing actually. It's happening to me.
No, I'm turning on my camera, but it's automatically getting shut for some reason.
Okay. Okay, anyway, so what do we do? Maybe you could log out and log in again, Arlene. Just try.
Okay, no, okay, I'll log on and log out. Yeah. I'll have to shut down my whole computer and come back again?
No, probably not.
Just close your browser where you are joined, no?
Yeah.
Then you come in.
Not able to log in.
I'm having the same problem.
Okay.
Maybe I'll come in from another email ID and you can admit me into the room, if that's all right?
Yeah, that is okay.
Oh, keen to see my face. Otherwise, I'm actually not my face.
Yeah.
Should I do that or should you just carry on?
Yeah, so you will be you are trying to use another laptop or a mobile phone?
No. The thing is, I have 3 Gmail IDs, and when I log into my Google, it comes in from another email.
Okay.
So
Please try.
just give me just a minute, okay? But if I'm entering, please admit me into the room, okay?
Sure. while we wait for Alin is here already. And now Alin is already here, so Tadeusz, please don't start.
Yeah, I think I have a problem with
Yeah,
my camera, so
it could be the hardware. Yeah.
I don't want to waste your time. I don't know what the reason is, but maybe we can go on without my camera on. Is that all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, going on to the topic of CCI's open shelters and the JJ Act. Um, Alin does not need any introduction, as it was the case with Adrian. Most of us still have fresh on in our memories the mesmerizing performance in Guwahati, the restorative justice. And Joe Prabhu also is here, one of the heroes of that day's show. Okay, the other day we were talking, Alin was speaking about how open shelters have changed and have become, what shall I say, constricted or constrained or narrowed down in its scope because of the perceived understanding of JJ Act and how and what we can do about it. And I thought that was a very good idea, a topic that we ourselves have been discussing and talking about. So I requested Alin to make a presentation to us at our governing body because the conversation happened just a few days before that, and she so willingly agreed. So Alin, though we cannot see you, over to you for your sharing your presentation.
Thank you so much. And that reminder of our performance with Joe is really still, yes, it's very fresh in my mind. And thank you for that warm introduction. Happy to be with you today. I have not prepared a presentation because I thought it would be a conversation, but I think there's no need for a presentation. Each one of you have spent years journeying and walking with children in street situations, and you perhaps know the situation and the issues that I'm talking about very, very well. So in my conversation with Father Tony, the issue that really I am deeply troubled by and quite upset about is for someone who has, more than 30 years ago when I started as a fresh graduate from Tata Institute working with the Jesuits in Mumbai, and the kind of engagement that we had with children in our contact center on what was then VT station, the kind of services that were provided, the relationship building that we did then, and what was it, what was called an open shelter or a drop-in shelter or a shelter home, whatever name you call it by. The contact and the presence on the street, journeying with children in street situations is a very different kind of a program compared to what is supposed to be offered in a residential facility. So unfortunately, because of the new Juvenile Justice Act and the model rules, the way the law has been drafted, the definition of the term childcare institution has encapsulated within it the notion of an open shelter, and in effect, in one stroke, destroyed the whole concept of what street presence. Now, Don Bosco, your Buddhivanta, Father George Kolashani, and all the wisdom, the philosophy, and experience over the years of being present on the street, the positive forces, negative forces, that whole engagement of children has been wiped out with one stroke by putting an open shelter within the definition of childcare institution under Section 2, Subclause 21 of the Act. And what makes it even worse is that Section 43, Subclause 1, requires all these open shelters to be registered. Now, in the provisions for registration under the JJ Act, which is there under Section 41 and Rule 21, the Model Rule 21, there are no differentiation in terms of standards that are for a residential facility or an open shelter. So, in effect, what has happened because of all these three provisions, an open shelter is now a childcare institution that has to be registered, the same standards, the same services, in effect, if one looks at the strict reading of the law. For those CWC members who have themselves worked on the street, who know what is going on in railway stations, bus stands, markets, and what an open shelter is, perhaps their understanding may be a little bit deeper. But when you have a CWC member or an inspection committee or the over-enthusiastic authorities who don't know the ground realities, but look at the letter of the law and start coming in for inspections, and the state government bureaucrats who also may not understand what this means. I do know of many NGOs who are running very, very good homes for children in street situations and good outreach programs who are now facing a lot of pressure from the state governments as well as from the inspection authorities like the CWCs and the inspection committees. In effect, what is happening is that these spaces are shrinking. The services that are provided for children are not how they are supposed to be. They're all, it's more about recording and reporting and producing children, and the journey of children in these homes, the actual care and protection that they need, which is recognized in the UN General Comment number 21, which was brought out in 2017. I imagine that all of you are familiar with this wonderful document that helps to explain in quite lucid detail about this continuum of care that is required for children in street situations, something which the Salesians have been doing for decades. You have already been providing this as drop-in center facilities. Now, because of the new legal framework, you are now being compelled to fall into the category of a residential care facility, and that flexibility, that openness, that open shelter, exactly what the name was meant to be. Those, I'm sure in many of the states, you are already facing these problems. I do understand in my conversations with Father Tony and others is that in Delhi there was some kind of a fraternity where you all started a group of childcare people running childcare institutions to talk on, to exchange information and ideas. So there is already a process of recognizing this as an issue, coming together to try and resolve it. So you're at, I would say, a threshold of really taking that leap. What would that leap mean? I would imagine that through proper coordination, some research guidance, some to understand the context in each of the states, vis-a-vis the state rules that have been notified under the JJ Act, what really are the rules saying? What is being pressurized? What are the issues that come up when you are being asked to register? How does that compromise on the kind of quality of individualized care that children in street situations require? How does that result in excluding these children from the care that they need? Because obviously they're not going to come to you if they imagine that they're going to get locked up in a detention-like facility, which is what most children perceive of as children's homes. They are not really homes. They are basically lockups in terms of a detention. So how do you have data in terms of children whom you knew, children who are addicted to substances, children who are in situations of mental health issues, who are not, even if they were picked up and produced before the CWCs and the CWCs place them in children's homes, the children's homes do not have the services to provide the kind of multifaceted treatment and care and protection that these children require. Is it possible for the Salesians to pool together to make this a nationwide study of what you yourself have experienced over these past few years since the JJ Act came into force? How has it impacted the kind of services you've provided? If you have narratives of children who now are scared of coming to your centers because they feel that they will be produced before the CWCs and dumped in a CCI and not. So how does it impact you as an organization in terms of your raison d'etre, in terms of your philosophy of street presence, of working with this particular group of children, which is very different from working with other children? That is why you have a special general comment on children in street situations. So to document that, through evidence-based research, qualitative as well as quantitative, come up with a report that is nuanced, that reflects the situation on the ground, highlight issues, the legal constraints that have been placed on you state-wise, and use this document to do advocacy, both at the level of state governments as perhaps, and I would encourage at a national level, because does not only concern the Salesians, it concerns all organizations who really want to reach out to this group. And believe me, that number is shrinking by the day. The funding, of course, as we know, is a huge problem. But this harassment, in quotes, if I may call it, because sometimes there is well-intentioned audit. There's a well-intentioned inspection in terms of what are you doing and what are the numbers and those kind of things. But I'm using the word harassment by people who are ill-informed and not able to understand what really these children need and what you are trying to do. Because it's harassment underlying which is a lot of ignorance and perhaps not even an inclination to understand what is going on. So this policy document, if that can be used to facilitate state-wise or nation-wise webinars, people to join hands with you, this could then become a process for submitting. I do understand that already. I have some information, some of you may already know this, that there is already a proposal for amending the JJ Act, and this has already been put in the ministry, on a file in the ministry, and so that time has already begun. There are other areas for law reform, but I believe that this issue has not been highlighted enough. I know that Advocate Anant Asthana and some of us, including myself, we have discussed this in various other forums. This could become, therefore, one agenda for law reform. Second, it will help to also clarify that a child protection policy that every child care institution is required to have now. As we know, under the POCSO Act, child protection policy now is mandatory because of the amendment under the POCSO Act. So you as Salesians have to bring out your own child protection policies for each of your CCIs and each of your open shelters. Unless the law reform gives you those standards, and the standards that apply in open shelters will then become more nuanced. And this will then enable you as Salesians to continue doing the work that you are so brilliant at, and what is needed more and more given the issues that children are facing in normal times, if I would say, and much worse during COVID. Families breaking down, the kind of violence, being pushed into crime. More and more children are going to be coming to your open shelters. And if the law is constraining and tying up your hands, not being able to offer the kind of services that you need, this is my assessment and my understanding. And I am very much open to a conversation about it. But in my experience, in my view, I believe this is an issue, an urgent issue, which I believe the Salesians are the best able to take this forward. With that, I will stop. It is just to highlight this as an issue. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Arlin, for bringing to the notice of this body your concerns, especially after having understood and having worked with the Salesians for so many years, that drop-in centers and the open shelters are under threat, the legal in the present scenario. Also for proposing to us a lot of issues of taking up this legally, and also to push forward for the advocacy and bring about the needed change that is required. Is there anybody who would like to add to this or propose some changes, or how we can go about? Any question to Mrs. Arlin? Yes, Father Leo.
The reality that Arlin has posted is experienced by me in the shelter that we are running. We have both CCI as well as open shelter. Whereas in the open shelter, we have very, very less number, just 2 or 3 children being admitted. Earlier, we used to have a lot of children, 20 plus, but now we have very few children, which is funded by the government. So they themselves questioned why you have very less numbers. Sometimes in certain months, we do not have even in one child in our open shelter. Because earlier, as we know, at any time they can come and they can go, and there was a very free lance type of shelter that we were running, and it was very useful for the children. But now it is being constrained because of CCI and JJ Act rules. I think we need to go according to what Arlin was saying, and we need to coordinate, and definitely we should work together to have an open shelter concept coming, not as a CCI running as an open shelter.
Okay.
Thank you, Father Leo. Yes, Father Tadeusz.
When I heard just now, Adrian speaking, I feel that I have gone to the right down in my own blood the work I am doing. And exactly, she is able to say very practicality which we have been experiencing. We are keeping inside, but this is reality. How challenges we are facing, the amount of things which are demanded. For instance, now earlier before JJ Act 50, Juvenile Justice Act 15. It was more or less we were doing according to the child requirement, this and that. But now nearly 25 to 30 registers to be maintained. So amount of energy is going there. So we are deprived of the children. And that is what exactly she has pointed out. Sometimes we say, happy solution. It's a high time for us to, as she has said, that we are the right people to come up and join hands together. So it is high time to think about, come together, and it's time for justice for the children. We can do, and once we can have and discuss on million basis, and approach the government in what we can do and express to. That is what I'm actually. Thank you, God bless you. Appreciate Alien and very delicious.
Yeah, thank you, Father Thaddeus. Yes, Father Gregory has posted, what is the way forward to rethink or rebuild open shelters once again? I think Mrs. Arlene has also answered. It would be important to merely document the wisdom and expertise you already have, highlight through evidence-based action research. So one of the proposal that she has put forward is to do an evidence-based action research that open shelters cannot be equated with CCI. Yes, Father Joe Prabhu.
I would like to thank Ms. Serlin, and I see a kind of tendency not among the Don Boscos but also other NGOs or the CCIs switching over to hostels. Is it prevalent elsewhere in the country, particularly in Karnataka? So, and what is the advantage and the disadvantage as we are running the CCA and the JJ Act and moving on with the Hostel Acts? Thank you.
Would like to answer this. You have raised this issue in some other forum also.
Yes, Father Joe, I think this is a deeper level of angst that I have. So one is you have the CCIs, the homes that were available, like the Jesuit run homes, the Sneha model, and the Sneha the Bosco homes, which were really homes. Now, those, because of the rules and regulations and the standards, these homes and the harassment that many are being facing because of the DCPOs and the state government, they're finding it convenient to convert a CCI into a hostel with the thinking that now a hostel does not have to be registered because it does not hold house children in need of care and protection or children in conflict with law. So this is another issue. I think Father Edward also has a lot of experience in this, but they're like the Good Shepherds. I'm very closely associated with the Good Shepherds, and I know this for a fact, where I have done a assessment in some of their situations, and I found that out of fear of harassment, they have converted a home for children in street situations into a boarding school. And therefore, you will only keep a child who has one single parent, and whether that parent pays you 1 rupee or 100 rupees or doesn't pay anything at all, you believe that because the parent is there, the child is not a child in need of care and protection. This is the second level of nuance, or in terms of legal blur that is there, that is resulting. The end result is what? Many of the, like those who've been running these homes for children in street situations, or for any kind of children, for children in need of care and protection, are now converting those homes into hostels. A nationwide study of organizations who have chosen to do this would also give evidence to the government to say that what you have done, in effect, yes, accountability, I am the first person to say yes. We need audits, we need accountability, we need to know what's going on in these homes. No doubt about it. But by the procedures and the kind of harassment that is being faced, if NGOs are now shutting down their CCIs and making them into hostels, if you look at it from an eyes of a child on the street, a child, first of all, in an open shelter, you don't feel, you're not getting the services you need. If you get into a CCI, there are the kind of CCIs that are there. NGOs have moved away, so it is government-run CCIs. And you and I know the quality of care that is there, because as I speak today, majority of the government staff, their salaries have also not been paid. So what is the quality of care that ultimately children are getting? So I like the idea of conflating both, or rather listing both these two issues as an agenda for your organization, for your way forward, looking at what has happened to your homes and what has happened to your open shelters. I agree, and I think that'll be a great idea. So
Thank you, Mrs. Harley.
Arvind has asked a question: what could be the reason why government tried to stifle self-reforms and thus conflated them with CCIs? In my understanding, there is an idea of the need for standards, minimum standards, accountability to try and prevent. There's also an angle that we are collecting money, generating funds, showing pictures of poor children and opening these open shelters and not being accountable to anybody. So in terms of financial audits and regulation, the more deeper question in my understanding is that there was a need to try and understand what is happening to children who are separated children, children who are not with their families, children who technically may need to come under the juvenile justice system protective framework. So when there are so many children on the street, if we don't know and you're not reporting, so if you look at the law, it is actually meant that you report to the CWC that these children are with me. But in reality, it is not just the reporting, the same standards now you also have to implement, which is not just reporting. So you're running a CCI in effect. So it's a little bit of a complex situation. What I understand is the intention was trying to map the number of children on the street and to ensure that they are within the protective frame of the juvenile justice system. Two is in terms of financial accountability, because there have been issues where people are running these programs, and because these children do not have parents, guardians, or lawyers to protect their rights, these children may be being exploited or money may be being made on their behalf.
Thank you, Mrs. Arlin, for clarifying some of our doubts. Yes, Father Balashuri, you want to add? Father, we can't hear you. Speak loud. Yes, Father. Come nearer to the laptop and speak. Can't hear you.
But Akinas, we can't hear. You have
Father Bala, can you please type? We can't hear you. We have to strain to hear you. Still, we can catch only few things. Something wrong with your microphone. Please type the question. We will take it up. Yeah. Last one or two questions until Father Balasharich types. Yes, Father Tony.
Unmute. Unmute.
You're muted.
Father, unmute.
While we wait for Balashuri to type the question, just to get the sense of the House, we all feel that this is an issue that we should take up, right? Is there any second thought on that, that this is something that we could take up together across the country, all of us together? Is it a worthwhile venture? I take it that all of us are along that line, or is there any difference of opinion? And if that is so, this question is to Alin. Alin, what would be some immediate steps that we could take? Step one, step two. You mentioned, of course, documentation and evidence-based advocacy. But what would be your suggestion going forward?
Just at the top of my head, Father Tony, one is to perhaps frame a questionnaire. It could be a Google questionnaire that could be administered online, and all the Salesian open shelters and childcare institutions that y'all are running. Maybe two separate questionnaires, or if you want it online and people are willing to write it out and submit, the modality is up to you. But the key questions in terms of what post the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 and in the context of their own state rules, one is a comparative research on the state rule compared to the model rules and if there are any nuances, if at all. Certain states may have certain things and so one first step is the comparative research of rules. Second, in terms of in relation to those rules, what are the challenges that you may be facing in those states, both with regard to CCIs, specifically in terms of registration and the impact on your services and impact on your program. Similarly, with regard to the open shelters. Once that data is come in, then to compile it, analyze it, and then have perhaps a series of webinars, or maybe the webinars could also enable that discussion for you to fill up that data with more nuance, with the little case studies, etc. And then if you would like to broaden out beyond the Salesian, build collaborations with others who are running similar CCIs, open shelters, Childline with regard to the railway, All India Working Group on Children in contact with the railways, other groups who have the similar issues, and then to build it up in advocacy for law reform, etc. So we can invite in other experts, invite Advocate Anantastana, Swagata Raha, people who are engaged very closely with the law, and then take it forward in terms of perhaps an online conference or maybe an engagement. I don't know when COVID is going to get over. But finally, submitting your recommendations in writing to the concerned authorities so that we can make this as a time-bound agenda. So research, consultation. I've also proposed that, if it is possible for those of you who do have expertise and the time and the skill that is required to listen to the voices of the young people on the street, what do they feel? So one aspect of that advocacy to engage with the children and the families and the young people, what they think are the issues, and together that gets submitted in terms of advocacy material that can go to government, go to civil society, and take it forward as an agenda over time. I think it's going to take some time because many people are not able to understand it. But so, yeah, that's what I have to say for the moment.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Allen. I think you have put it very nicely, and you have also proposed how we can proceed from here. Any last question?
I think Father Arvind has raised that the file is already with the legislature. In my experience of engaging with the formulation of law right from 1999 at National Law School and the subsequent law reform processes with both the Parliamentary Standing Committee, etc., etc. I'm much younger than many of you, and you have much more experience than me. You know that policy and law reform takes decades. So we can try for this round of amendment. I don't know when that's actually going to this thing, or if you say the file is already there. I know it is being spoken of in the ministry. This is an advocacy effort that needs to take much more time. It's very important, and therefore the time, the process, and the quality is more important than just a sudden law reform initiative.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mrs. Allen. I think the House understands the importance of it, and we have also agreed on taking this forward. So maybe we will have to work out the details along with Mrs. Arlin. Mrs. Arlin also helping us in child protection in the policy that we are redrafting it. So we will also discuss along with that this issue and how we can take it forward. As said, the big Google form and other initiatives, we will work out with a smaller team and then we will take it forward. Is that okay, Father Tony? Yes. So with this, we will close this particular discussion, and we thank Mrs. Harlin for taking time, and you're always there with us and accompanying us with your ideas and then your suggestions and the concerns, especially that you feel free to express to the Salesians, especially with regard to the CCIs and how we need to be careful in not to fall prey to some of the traps that they are setting in order to close down some of our institutions, and also how we can take forward some of the beautiful works that we have started, like open shelters. And thank you for bringing up this issue and then presenting it before us and alerting us on the legal framework that we need to be careful about and how we can take forward to the advocacy point. And I personally see a lot of possibility in which we can intervene and then bring forward the concerns of the children to the government as well as to the legal framework. Thank you, Mrs. Arlin, for your
Thank you so
presentation
much.
and also for this. Yes.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.